second here, folks. Let me test some. I'm testing something. Okay, this is much better. So what I'm going to do, folks, I'm going to end this stream. And there's another one already started. And what I'm doing is I am literally switching phones. So we'll see you in just a moment. Hey everybody, we're switching phones because Xfinity service out here is 80 volts. Whatever. Second. I'll get my big giant hand out of the way in just a second, I promise. Hey everybody, I hope this is better. It looks better to me. Ooh, need to adjust that. Still grainy. Well, that sucks because I checked it out on my tablet before I switched over to this one. Yeah, damn it. Okay. It's the moving water? Okay. Let's see. We're live. I know we're looking at the ground, folks. Give me just a second. I was just hoping that would clear things up. And it actually did, but it didn't help much. All right, well. We'll see if changing perspective helps. It does not. Okay. See, I should have listened to Cindy in the first place when she told me it was because of the moving water. But since Travis was giving me garbage about it, I thought, you know what? Travis would know that would be the reason. So Travis wouldn't lead me astray. Travis led me astray. What?
It's a beautiful day and water's moving.
It is a beautiful day. Folks, bear with me as I'm playing with the camera angles to try to get something that works better. Yeah, I think we're just kind of stuck with conditions we have. I mean, I tried to talk Ashley into going out there and calming the water, but she says she can only walk on the water. She can't calm it. But thanks everybody for joining in. If you guys have anything you want to talk about, we talk about literally anything under the sun. If you can see, you may not be able to see on these rods. So the 4 rods on the left are all the same. I painted them. The orange section is what I painted. The bottom black section is what the original color was, and I left that there because it has the logo and the information about the strength of the rod and line rating and all that kind of stuff. The glow tip came on them, but you'll notice the two on the left have shrink wrap around the handle, and the two on the right have cork handles. They were originally all cork. I just shrink wrapped around the cork because, as stupid as this sounds, I've always been a fan of cork handles. Always loved them. Thought they were better than foam handles. But the EVA foam is actually, it's growing on me. It's not as slick. You can get a good grip on it. It's not as soft as the old foam used to be. That didn't work very well. So the reason for the shrink wrap around it was actually to preserve the cork handles. And these are cheap cork handles. They're the rubberized cork where they, I think, basically macerate the cork in with rubber. And anyway, so there you go. What am I fishing for? Hey, Chuck, thanks for coming in. I am fishing for catfish. We have one thus far. It was huge. It was the biggest catfish I've ever seen. There are none bigger. It's the biggest. The biggest. If I were to send this to China, it would have 125% tariff. Anyway. Wildcat, get a smaller TV and it won't look pixelated. Ha ha ha. So the left rod, the four left rods are all Cast King Cat Tech. They don't make them anymore. I got them on clearance for half price. And actually did better than that. It was during COVID, and they were stuck for over a month in New York with the Postal Service. So I told them that I didn't get my rods, so they sent me out two more, which arrived in like 2 days. And then finally, the other ones arrived another month after that, I think. Like, I don't know. Anyway, so basically I got 4 of them for $100. Can't really complain about that. But they were on clearance. They were half price when I bought them. I've got 2 PC Fun Chaos XS50 reels. I've got 2 Abu Garcia 5600s from 20 plus years ago. And then I've got an Abu Garcia 6500 Catfish Special on the far right rod, which is a force rod from Triple City Anglers. It's a sweet doggy rod. I actually won the rod at the gathering last year. So the second rod from the right, well, the line was moving interestingly, like it was getting a little tap, 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 but maybe not. I don't know. Yeah, I like Abu Garcias. The reason I got the Catfish Specials. So the Carp Specials went on clearance first. So I got 2 of the, what I get 4 of those. I've sold 2 of those already. And I got, I don't know, 6 or 8 of the Catfish Specials. I was like, what am I going to do with all these bleeping reels? And ended up selling some of them off as well. Replaced some of the PC Fun Chaos reels I had and sold those off. So, but they went on clearance at Walmart a couple of years ago for like $69 a piece. And they're normally $150. So I can't say no to a good deal. But yeah, Abu Garcia makes a very nice reel. Not the stuff they sell at Walmart. I forget what the model numbers are. It's a different model number. It comes in those clamshells. It's, their $50 version is not a good quality reel. Abu has such a good brand name recognition for quality. I wish they hadn't gone with the lower route. But by the same token, if you want to compete in all segments of the market, then you need to have products in all segments of the market. So there's that. Whisker Seeker 9.5 foot Chad Ferguson with an Abu SX Raptor. Yeah, I knew Chad 100 years ago back when I lived in Texas. Anyway, knew him online, didn't know him in person. He was local to me then. But, yeah. And I saw that Crescent came out with a new kayak. It's called the Smalley. I forget what the letters behind it are, but basically it's a fishing edition. Looked like it had some really cool features. The problem was the 375-pound weight capacity doesn't do it for me. But I was looking at it for Ashley. I'm like, that'd be good. Except she wants a pedal drive, and it's a paddler, or you can put motors on it. The Crescent makes really. They're known for their paddle ability because they've been a paddling kayak company from the beginning. They do more stuff for rivers and even whitewater stuff. So, Avat. Okay, I'm not sure what an Avat is. Oh, sorry, Wildcrat. I got you and Chuck's comment confused. And I like these PC Fun Chaos XS reels. Now, I'm not saying they're as good as an Abu. Not even going to try. I know Jody has said that she's used them and has worn them out quickly, fairly quickly for her. But Jody is hard on equipment. She does a lot of fishing. So, but for most people, I think these Abu Garcia, these PC Fun Chaos XSs are a pretty good. They're good value. For 50, 60 bucks, they are not a bad value at all. I like the 50 over the 60 because the 50 has the thumb bar release and also has a thumb rest on the top. And I'm talking about the release mechanism of the bar across it as opposed to the push button. And the size 60 has the push button. But the 60 holds more line as well. I also like the internals on the 50 a little better than the 60, but that's just me. I'm really liking those the PC Fun Alios 400s that I have. I was able to pull in a couple of 10-pound or so gar on them, and I realize that's not really a big test, but it's more than nothing, right? And gar have a lot of smoke in them, no question about it. And I was happy with their performance, but now they're not an inexpensive reel. They are. I think the MSRP is supposed to be like $199. They're normally sold around $150, but when they go on sale, you can get it for $100 to $120, or at least you could before tariffs. I don't know what they're doing now. So they're not the least expensive reel out there. They are a low-profile, high-capacity bait caster with a really loud bait clicker, and I do love my bait clickers. To make it in a size 300 as well, doesn't have the bait clicker, doesn't have as much line capacity, but also considerably less expensive. They both have, I think, over 30 pounds of drag. I want to say 35, 36 pounds. Ridiculous amount. It is felt drag washers, just for anybody who cares, as opposed to carbon fiber. Let me rephrase that. You know what? I better not say that. I think they are carbon fiber. Crap. I've taken apart too many reels. I think they are carbon fiber. So forget what I said. But I like the way a low profile bait caster casts more than a round bait caster. That's what I learned on. So there's that. But they cast well. I like the smoothness. I've got something ridiculous like 50 or 65 pound braid on them. Because my goal was to find whatever keeps breaking me off down there in Florida, but it didn't bite this time. I don't know if I was getting, big black drum that were coming through, but whatever it was just peeled and ran twice. Possibly 3 times, because, yes ma'am.
Do you have something clean I can stir my stuff in?
Something clean, have you ever been fishing?
That's why I asked if you had something clean.
Clean is not what we do.
I know, that's why I was asking.
Let's see, do I have...
But I figured
I have a clean wax worm. I don't think you want that though. I do not have anything that I would consider clean. Clean.
Or something useful for storing. What do you think?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
I got a dead bluegill over here, but I don't think you want to use that.
I don't think,
I mean, it was in the water, so I assume it's clean.
I don't think that's going to disturb my stuff.
Uh,
I forgot my sport.
so Wildcat, solid braid sucks for surf fishing because sand will cut you off. Yes, but I use they call them shock leaders, or I don't know whatever else you call them. Basically, 3, 4, 5 times the length of the rod is mono. So you do an FG knot, and I'm using more mono than I should. If some of my casts, the mono was all that was out there. So that that last few feet of abrasion with the sand and stuff, you don't have that problem. And Wildcat has told me about something called hollow core braid, which is, what do you say, 12 or 16 strand? I forget. And he says it's much better at abrasion resistance. I've never seen it, so I can't really explain. Yeah, it's funny. I was reading, somebody posted that braid is better than mono in every way. And then somebody said, you mean every way except, abrasion resistance, the ability to take a shock, shock energy, that kind of stuff, stuff like that. And I love blanket statements that get cut off like that. Like, braid is better than every way. Well, no. That's like saying that fluorocarbon is better in every way, or that mono is better in every way. No. If you got 400 yards of mono out there and you try to set the hook, good freaking luck, because the fish is never going to feel the hook set because there's so much stretch in the line. On the other hand, I'm not sure how many of us would have 400 yards of line out, so there's that. Well, see, and that I've touched on something that I'm probably going to alienate people with, but I don't care. And that is absolutes. People that speak in absolutes, and YouTube is filled with a lot of experts on topics that they're not experts at. And there's one guy that I used to watch that does a lot of fishing on the East Coast in saltwater, and he did he was talking about the dropper loops. He's like, the beginner dropper loop is this, the second is this, and then when you're an expert, you use this, which was basically doing a dropper loop and then turning it into a T-knot. So I did exactly what he did, and I put it on the pull tester, and it was weaker than just the dropper loop, which is abysmal in strength on its own. And I'm like, that's enough for me to know that you don't know what the hell you're talking about, buddy. I understand, because I understand that the T-knot looks pretty and all that, and that maybe your line stands off a little bit more, but if it's giving horribly weak results, I don't want to hear it. And of course, he sells stuff, so he sells those rigs and everything. I don't know. Wildcat thinks I can cast more than 50 feet. He's funny. Well, so the way I look at it, Wildcat, so then this was actually going to come into play in a future video that I'm thinking about somehow doing. So the way bait and weight surf fishing works, at least in the panhandle of Florida, is you typically have a 10 to 13 foot rod. You put it in a sand spike that's going to elevate it another 3 feet off probably 2 feet, because you get the handle that goes in. So you're going to add another 2 feet to the length of the rod there. And then you're casting into water that is sloped down. So, you got 10 to 20 feet maybe there on a good day. So you've got a 30-foot drop, right, between the tip of your rod and where your bait actually lands. So, using the right triangle hypotenuse and a squared plus b squared equals c squared nonsense. You're looking at about a 20 to 30 foot drop, and then however far you cast, and then you can figure out angles and such of that. But so it's not like your bait is just sitting on the, like your line is rubbing the bottom the whole time. Jody. Here you go. So you thought it stretched so much, and after initial stretches, that is, it keeps stretching until the line gets weak and has a bad spot to break. Are you talking about mono or braid? Because braid doesn't stretch, so I'm assuming it has to be mono. So in my limited testing, I believe that mono gets, just like metal has metal fatigue, I believe that there's mono fatigue as well. And I mean, it makes sense because everything gets fatigue in that. Elastic, you can I don't care what Fruit of the Loom says about it snaps back wash after wash, it does until it doesn't, right? So I think that you weaken your line a little bit every time it gets that stretch. And so you stretch it, and then it kind of goes back to where it was, to the same length it was, kinda. It's somewhere in the middle, and I think it's closer to the original length. So you stretch it, and part of that initial stretch that you have to remember if you're tying a knot on each end and doing it that way, part of that stretch is actually the knot setting, because there's a lot of, I don't know if any of us pull our knots tight enough. So the knot setting and the left maybe, I don't know. No, it's just the wind. The right angle made it look good. So you're setting that, but you're also, if you stretch, you're stretching the mono in the knot a little bit, and that's going to cinch down a little bit more. So you will get length out of that once it cinches down on that stretched mono, it's not going to ever take that part back because it can't grow because it's been cinched down. Mono has an incredible amount of stretch in it. I mean, it's a ridiculous amount. It's not like 10%. It's a lot of stretch. And sorry, I was reading chat again. So I believe that you lose a little bit of elasticity, and I think that you lose some of that strength every time you stretch it, so that if you took two completely equal pieces of line and you stretched one 10 times and put it up against one that hadn't been stretched, the breaking strength, I think the one that had been stretched however many times already would actually be longer when it broke, but I think that the actual breaking strength would be higher on the one that hadn't been stretched before. Been pulling off of a new spool to reel because the stretch made too much line to reel back in. That's weird, because I would have actually expected that it would have seated better on the reel, on the spool as it came back in, and would actually show up less, even though, yes, there is some length to be had there. Yeah, I mean, I definitely believe that there's going to be some stretch that stays in it, but it's not the full stretch. I know that for a fact, because you can just you can stretch it, and then as you let loose, you can see that it shortens back up some. So Wildcat Riggs, he is up in Nova Scotia. He fishes for big fish, billfish, stuff like that, big honking stuff. So he uses he doesn't use our piddly little 40, 60 pound line. He uses 80 and above, and probably a lot above. And he's a big fan of crimps, and I get that. So yes, there are multiple sandbars in the Gulf. So you typically have the first trough right at shore, then you go to a sandbar where it breaks, then you have another trough, and I don't actually know how many sandbars there are. They talk about the first and the second sandbar, but I think there's probably in a lot of places more sandbars. I just don't know how far out you go before. I mean, there's definitely going to be upsies and downsies. You know, it's not just an even slope downward. It's just that I don't think those are shallow enough rises in the bottom that makes the wave crash over the way the ones closer to shore do, because they get shallow enough that the bottom of the water is slowed down enough that the top crashes over. Nobody really. Well, thanks for sharing. Never trust a fart, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, Wildcat, you're still thinking I can cast further. But my point being that if you're at that second sandbar, that your line is not touching the first sandbar because of that height. You know, that 12 to 14 feet of from the beach to the tip of your rod, as if you're holding it up vertically, right? So I think that the angle is going to not intersect that first sandbar if you're going to the second one. It will if you're in the trough, right? But like if you're sitting on top of the second sandbar, it doesn't matter. And you know, a lot of people, the rule of thumb that I've heard, and that's the thing. See, that's the problem. And because I talk about people who just repeat the same crap as if it's fact, and we end up at where we are today. But a lot of them are like, well, you know, the rule of thumb is 3 times the length of your rod is how much leader you need for shock leader. I can guarantee you I have way more than that, because I didn't hear about that rule of thumb until after I'd already spooled everything up. Like I say, I've cast out while I was on the dock, and I can't cast very far from the dock because it's got the supports on the side and then the roof, so I can't really get good leverage to do a long cast. But there were some of them where I was still playing with mono the whole time. Mary stole your pants. Now, that sounds right. Oh. I'm sorry, nobody. I thought it said that you shit your pants, not oh shit my pants. My bad. Hello, plus triple equal, and a lot of what looked like Mandarin stuff. I don't know how to help you there. I know it sounds like I'm speaking Mandarin, and therefore I probably do understand simplified Chinese. I don't. No, we're going to go with English on this one. A lot of factors. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, so Wildcat, the reason. So the guy is in Pensacola, or the guy's in the Panhandle. And I wish I had watched more, although you would not believe how much I watched. I just happened to watch the same area, so the same people from the same area, and the area does the same thing. So, like, East Coast fishermen tend to use bait casters. Gulf fishermen tend to use spinning. And with a bait caster, heavier mono is not as much of a problem with casting distance. But on a spinning reel, oh my goodness, that thicker mono is a beast and will absolutely cut your casting distance down significantly. Now, it will cut your casting distance down significantly on a bait caster. I just don't think it cuts it down as much. Because, you know, you have to worry, all you really have to worry about, and that's assuming that the bait caster is using a level wind. If it's a non-level wind, then you're not going to be as impacted by thicker mono, because you don't have that sharp angle as it tries to go through the line guide in the front of the reel. You only have to worry about it going through the guides, and it's going back and forth, but there's still 18 inches or so at least until that first guide. So I don't think that the angles get you the way the loops do on a spinning reel, where those, you know, that line comes off and it slaps those guides and slows down significantly. So, because I like bait casters more, I truly do. Now, with a spinning rod with braid, I believe you can cast. The records have always been set with spinning, so you can cast further with a spinning reel. I feel confident saying you can cast further with a spinning reel than you can with a casting reel. Andre, I am in Tennessee, near Memphis. Yeah, so knots are incredibly difficult the heavier mono you use. Now, what's interesting, Jody, I used to have a real hard time tying knots in 60-pound mono, and then I started playing around with my strength test and 100-pound mono, and now 60-pound mono feels like a freaking breeze. There are different knots as you get into thicker mono, or at least that's what I've been able to ascertain from to find folks on YouTube. One of them is a Centauri knot, and frankly, it sucks. Don't even try a Palomar knot or anything like that. The knots are just a whole lot more difficult with thicker mono. 60-pound I don't have a problem with. 100-pound is no fun. And yes, you can do knots like the Centauri knot on 400-pound mono, but it's still not fun. At that point, you're using weed eater line anyway. So Andre, when you say the bait caster is backwards for you, that was actually something running into my line. Doesn't mean it was anything I wanted, but I mean it could have been a fish literally running into my line, not looking where he was going. So, do you have your chapstick on you, babe?
I do.
So, Andre, a bait caster reel is so much better than a spinning reel in so many ways. Like I said, you're going to get more distance out of a spinning reel, which is basically it's the open face version of a spin caster like you're talking about. Thank you, honey. But with a bait caster, so when you reel in, you're not having to switch axes. You're reeling. Now, granted, you are using gears that change the direction, so you're going backwards instead of forwards, and you got reduction gears, etc. But you're staying in the same plane. Your spool is spinning on the same plane that your reel is turning. Whereas on a spinning setup, you're doing much like an old V8 with a normal rear, with a rear wheel drive, right? You're going from this way, you're spinning this way, and then wanting to spin this way with the tires. So you lose a lot of energy in that switching of axes. So while it works similar to a winch on the bait casters, you got reduction gears, you got all that, but you're not having to switch the actual axis perpendicularly. So you absolutely have better energy transference. The amount of energy you put into reeling, more of it is transferred to the actual line. Vice grips to tighten tagging. That's actually a good idea, Wildcat. That is one of the problems that I've had. I like these little scissors here. They're from Danco. I buy them every year when they go on, the Black Friday or Cyber Monday, whatever sale they do. I try to buy these if they're still in stock. They're they say they're braid scissors, but you've got the cutting edge in the back half. You got grippy teeth here, and it even has a split ring piece in the front. When they're on sale, they're like $3. That's the half price sale. And I really like those. But even with that grip and, squeeze them as much as you can, on a small pair of pliers like that, you're not getting nearly as much force applied. But yeah, the vice grip sounds like a way. The problem is, that hook slips and goes in your finger, you're going to know it. Your phone keeps changing what you type Mine too. I keep typing that I'm catching fish, and then there are none. Two friends that do. One burns the end to keep it from slipping, and the other ties a tiny knot. So, um, a crimp will slip, and the reason a crimp will slip with enough force is because when you pull on it, it thins out, right? I mean, no matter what you do, I mean, think of it like a piece of bubble gum, right? As you pull the ends, the center gets thinner. So you get to the point where it's gonna thin that out enough that it can actually slip in the crimp. Not that it's just gonna like easily do it, but it can happen. I've done it. I don't know how much I trust the heating the end of it. I'm gonna have to do some more testing on that. And the knot, again, an overhand knot can slip. I've proven that too. But it's about you're not putting the full force on that. The knot the crimp is slipping. It's not like completely removed from the equation and ineffective. Everything okay, babe?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Daniel.
Huh?
Hey, Daniel.
Okay.
I knew it went in YouTube conversation.
So Wildcat used to be owner in I want to say Down East Tackle. That may be wrong completely, but it's some company. So he knows a thing or two about tying rigs. I would definitely take him up on his offer, Jody. And anyway, yeah. So first off, crimping is not intuitive, right? If you get the double barrel crimps, or no, not. Let me think. Let me put my words together here. Whether it's double barrel or the oval, I would have thought that you would crimp on the skinnier side or the wider side, so you're kind of crimping between the two lines, so you're getting a crimp on both lines that way. That's what I thought. You're supposed to crimp on the thin end, so the more rounded pieces of the oval. That's not where I thought you would do it. To me, it's counterintuitive, but that's the way you're supposed to do it. And it is imperative that you use the closest diameter crimp sleeve to the line. If the smallest one you've got that'll fit, or the smallest one you can find that will allow you to put your line through it twice. That's what you want. You use too big of a crimp, and you can't crimp the crimp sleeve. You can't crimp down enough to make it worthwhile. Anyway, that's me talking. I do that a lot. I use so many words and say so little. And I should have asked if the volume and everything's okay. I think my microphone transferred over correctly. But there's a lot of, going back to what I was saying about pissing off people on YouTube. There are a lot of people that just regurgitate the same information, and one of the things I'm trying to do is not regurgitate the same information, but actually test things out. Now, some things are going to test out to be exactly the way we were told, but some things aren't, right? For instance, that double dropper loop. That dropper loop is just a hideous knot. It's pretty, and I've seen videos where, I mean, look how pretty that knot is. That is a strong knot. I'm like, no. It is a pretty knot. It is not a strong knot. There's just so much stuff that we've heard and repeated, and there's just some stuff that's wrong. But again, I'm not telling you that I have the answers. I'm not telling you I know more than anybody else. All I'm telling you is that I question what I'm told as much as I can to prove or disprove it, right? You know, there's a lot of people that have a vested interest in you following what they say. A good example is you should use this hook because this is the greatest hook ever, or this is the best sinker, or this is the best swivel, or this is the best. They're sponsored. They get freebies. That's why they tell you it's the greatest. I mean, don't you come in my lines. Just keep going, you little illegal Canadian geese. At least they didn't get in my lines, right? It looked like they was thinking really hard of it, though. And yes, I do know English and subject predicate plurality. So forgive me when I say stupid stuff. I'm saying it to sound stupid. Where was I? You know, and I hate that it's come down to that. You know, there are people out there that are trying to sell one brand of kayak over another. And what is best for me is, especially in something like a pickup truck. What's best for me is not necessarily what's best for you, right? There are so many factors that come into it. It's not just, you know, I shouldn't tell you that my pickup, the pickup I drive is the greatest one out there. I mean, I may think it is for my needs. One of my needs was price, right? Let's be honest with you. You know, I would have rather had a Cybertruck, but I wouldn't pay $100,000 for a truck. And I think we do a disservice to each other when we pimp stuff. If you love a product and you talk about it because you love it, and if that company at some point comes along and offers you a sponsorship, that's great. But too often what happens is a company offers you the sponsorship. I'm talking about low-level companies, right? Without you even knowing their product. Here, we're going to send you this free product for a review. Okay. Yes, it's supposed to be an unbiased. Well, yes, you say it's supposed to be an unbiased review. It's not. If I want to keep getting free stuff from you, I'm going to have to say nice stuff about your product, right? Because if I talk about the negatives about your product, you're not sending me more products. So let's get that shizzle right out of the way, right? As an example, okay. What's the name of the product? The kayaks that Bass Pro sells, Ascend. Because I would not take one for free. Okay, I would take one for free. I would not endorse the product, though. They are not a kayak I would ever want to pay money for. I would never pay my money for it. I would not. I mean, like I said, if it was free, I would take a freebie. But I'm not going to tell you it's the best kayak out there at all. There are too many people out there with problems with them that I would not spend my money on one. And so even if Bass Pro comes to me and says, "Hey, Mike, we want to give you this free kayak. We're going to rig the crap out of it, and all you have to do is tell people how great it is." Well, I can tell you how great the motor on it is that you've added after the fact, or how great the rod holders that you added after the fact, or how great the battery is after the fact, or whatever. But I would never in good conscience tell you to go buy an Ascend kayak. I think there are too many better options at the price points offered. End of story. I would, yeah, the end. But there are people out there that would take the kayak and tell you how, well, look at this, it's 12 foot long and it's this wide, and oh, look at it, it's this pretty color, and it's this. What about the fact that the floor bends when you walk on it, flexes too much, or that it just the various quality control issues that they have, the things that I would not want one for. I've heard too many problems. I do not want a kayak under my fat ass out there. That's going to leave me in the water. Let's call it like it is. And I use owner hooks. I use Gamakatsu's hooks. I use Academy brand hooks. I use uh, Eagle Claw hooks. But if you want me to say, if you want me to tell you why, I can tell you why I use different hooks. Academy I buy because they're inexpensive. But when I was bass fishing and money was on the line, I was using premium hooks. I was using Gamakatsu's. I was using Owner. I think Owner was the one that did the cutting point. X Point. No, X Point with X Point. I forget who did X Points, but X Point hooks. I was using the high end Owner hooks. I was using the Daiichi hooks. I was using the premium stuff because money was on the line on bringing that fish in. If I straighten the hook while I'm out here, I don't care. No skin off my nose. There's no money on the line. If I lose a fish, whoop-de freaking do. I use Trilene Big Game Mono for most of my mono. That or Suffix Superior, excuse me, because it's inexpensive. It's good quality. It's very good quality for the price, but it's not the best line out there, right? You've got, Big Game has a lot of memory, has a pretty big diameter compared to some of the other lines, strong as can be. Ties good knots. They're pretty good knots. But it's not the best out there. So that's where I get lost on the statements that are made by people. I will only use XYZ hooks. Yeah, that's because they give them to you. I mean, if Academy said, hey, we're going to give you free hooks for life, or free hooks for now, you're going, great, send them to me, baby. I'll use them. I will not use any other brand of hooks while you're giving me freebies, because they're free. But let's be honest, it's because they're free. Man, that soapbox held my weight real well. Let's see. What isn't worth $5,000? I don't know what I said that was worth $5,000 there, Dark Bunny. Let me switch. I didn't say how much my kayak cost. Oh, no. I know. If anybody paid $5,000 for an Ascend kayak, I'd have to beat them. Now, unless you're looking at one that's already rigged out with the Motor Guy XI3 spot lock up front, and Bass Pro does do packages on their kayaks where they put much like they do with their boats, the fish finder, the motor, the battery, the blah 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 blah. But in the end, see, one of the problems with Tracker boats has always been that they're selling at a price point. So they're putting a smaller motor on there than what is maxed out for the boat, and you really always get the biggest motor you can that the boat is rated for. And Tracker will put out a 24 foot pontoon with a 40 horse. I'm making those numbers up, so just kind of bear with me. Nobody wants a 40 horse on a 24 foot pontoon except Pontoon Jody, because she does not like to go fast. But there are companies out there that'll throw a 300 horse on a big pontoon if you want it. The Bass Pro Shops boats are typically underpowered, and they include fish finders that are probably not what most people want. And to me, I would rather just don't put one on there and take whatever money it cost off of there. I mean, I'm not asking you to take the retail cost of that fish finder off, but even 50% off is a big deal, because I don't want it. You've put extra holes in my transom that my new transducer probably won't fit, and all that kind of fun stuff. That they'll put the 12-volt motor instead of the 24-volt motor on it for the trolling motor, and they'll because they're trying to hit that price point. Their boats are not necessarily bad quality boats. They're not, they're not death ships or anything. It's just the stuff that they rig them with. They have to rig them with lower quality stuff so that they can hit that price point. So they can advertise nationally that, you can get this fully rigged boat for X number of dollars. And I say that because my first boat was almost a tracker. It was a pro crappie, 15 or 16 foot. It had a 40 horse on it. The sales guy took me and my, at the time, wife out on the boat. And of course, it was really only a 2-seater. And I had to sit on the front deck so the thing would plane out. And of course, his responsible, you put a dolphin on the back of it and that'll help it plane out better. Well, that's just, again, compensating for the fact that the motor's too small. And yeah, it's Pro Crappie 16. I'm so glad I did not get that boat because I would have not enjoyed it. But it was going to be my first boat, and I didn't know any better. It has low gunnels. Doesn't have a very large live well because, again, it's a crappie boat. It's a panfish boat. It's not for bass tournaments, which is what I was wanting to do. And I thought I could catch bass at the time. I was wrong, but that's a whole other issue for a whole other day. Let's not talk about that, okay? I had a bass cat boat. I love that. It was a nice boat. I had a Nitro 911. I liked that boat. It was heavy as could be. It was not a light boat. And the Optimax 225 that was on it before it blew did pretty well. They replaced the power head on it because those 99 Optimaxes had problems, and it was not nearly as strong as the first one. They think they detuned a lot of stuff so that it wouldn't get as much compression. Had a Spectrum little 14-foot deep V, walk through windshield. And the one I've got now is a Tracker Pro Guide V175, single console. And aside from the fact that I've gotten older and the decks are much higher up than I consider a normal step to be, I like it pretty well. It's got 115 horse, which is the max for that year. It gets up to about 40 miles an hour. Now, it doesn't plane out like a bass boat does. I mean, it doesn't, get up there with just a couple inches of the boat in the water. But it does everything I need it to do. But it is not as easy as a bass boat when you just, I remember a little express bass boat I had, and you just put your hands on the edge and just kind of kick your legs up and you're off the ground and into the boat. This is one of those, give me a ladder, baby. Okay, maybe not that bad, but you get the idea. I also lost my sea legs somewhere along the way. I used to be able to balance on a boat like there was no tomorrow, and now I'm like, could the boat hold still, please? Anyway, just me yapping. I'm good at it. Let's see what's going on. Hey, Mike Urban, good to see you. Appreciate you being in here. Appreciate all of you being in here. If you haven't hit that thumbs up, I'd appreciate you doing it. It tells YouTube I'm not an idiot. You're not endorsing that I'm not an idiot. You're just, you're just telling them they need to figure it out on their own. You're not going to help them with the process of figuring out that I'm an idiot. That's all. I don't want you to feel like you've lied to them. Because let's face it, we all know I'm an idiot. Trying to find another battery pack. I swear every time I go out, I say, I need to organize this better. I'm going to organize this better. And guess what I never do? You got it. That's right. I don't organize it. For the next time. Oh, well, I found out why I couldn't find it. It's in my pocket. Oh, that's my phone. Sorry. One bad thing about doing YouTube is I have a lot of phones. I feel like a drug dealer sometimes. And thank goodness Ashley trusts me, because, I mean, I could absolutely see how somebody would go, bro, you got how many phones? Plus, I don't throw my phones away. She's seen that. She knows that all too well. Still have a Samsung S6. And I don't throw it away because, you know, someday I might need it, like I've done when I've live streamed. Okay, is it in this pocket? No, it's my wallet and everything. Another battery pack. I've got that one, but and I'm not out of options. I've got plenty of options still available. Yeah, I think I can run it off of here. I'm gonna use my black light as a power source. See if it works. It does. But man, this cart is nice to have. Carry all my crap at once. Yeah, and kayaks are getting expensive. Going back to the comment, that ain't worth $5,000. Old Town Sportsman 136 autopilot, $5,000. Comes with motor, with spot lock. I had a lot of money for a plastic boat. And then, you know, like Bonafide came out with, I don't know, their XTR or whatever, big giant battleship of a kayak. And was it Wilderness that came out with one as well? Anyway, there's two big battleships that came out this year, or in the last year, I should say, that are more skiffs than kayaks. And but fishing kayaks are kind of their own beast anyway. You know, the people that want a kayak for recreational kayaking want one that's fast, one that turns on a dime. They don't want to stand up in it. They, you know, a lot of them want to sit inside where they can put the skirt on there and, you know, roll over in the water and all kinds of stuff and not, you know, not sink it. They want to go through whitewater rapids and stuff like that. And that's not what a fishing kayak is made for. A fishing kayak, one of the big things that people want out of a fishing kayak is stability, primary stability. So if I, you know, so I'm feeling like I'm sitting on a boat. I can't stand up and walk around as much. People can stand up and do walk around on kayaks, but not me. And, you know, there's a secondary stability of, you know, like if you reach over the edge, but you got to be real careful to keep from rolling over kayak. Don't ask me how I know. Most of you know how I know. So I grunt every time I think about, you know, fishing kayaks and calling them kayaks, because I wish there were another name for them. Because they're not as simple as just taking a normal kayak and throwing a couple of rod holders on there, although the original ones were. But it's a whole new market segment. To me, you know, a fishing kayak versus a recreational kayak is the difference between a pickup truck and a sports car. They both have their place. But you don't want to go off-roading in a sports car. And without a heavy modification, you don't want to take your pickup truck to a racetrack. Because that's not what they were built for. They're not built for the handling. They're not, you know. And a lot of money has to go into R&D to build those kayaks. I'm still in awe of how they make roto-molded kayaks. It's all one piece, but the center's hollow. How do you do that? What? Oh. I mean, they throw in little pellets, beads, whatever, plastic, beads, and they heat it up, and they roll it around, and they heat it up, they roll it around every which way in the air, and all this kind of stuff. And I get that. It's just, how do you get the hollow center? Clearly they know the answer. Was that you or me? Let me make sure this not work. Although I did tell them to call me if they needed me. Shannon's live. Okay, I'm back, folks. Sorry about that. Just trying to clear off some notifications, and one of those was that Shannon was live, and by trying to clear it, it clicked on it. Oh, great. There went my live stream. I'm back. Okay, I hope I'm back anyway. Let me make sure. Yeah, I definitely look back. Okay. High pressure vacuum molding. Well, that makes sense. It's still wild to me that, Anyway. Welcome back, Wildcat. While you were gone, we caught the biggest fish ever. Biggest. It was a tuna. I caught a freshwater marlin. Should have been here. What?
I caught the Loch Ness monster.
You caught, yeah, the Loch Ness monster. Yes, absolutely. And man, the wind just went wild. Apparently, it was God's way of getting me for lying. Cut up my other piece of bait. Oh, we got two more. Freshen up my bait out there. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I think when we all started YouTube, we either thought we were going to be really good at it, or would we ever get anybody watching? And I was definitely of the will anybody actually watch me crowd, and I'm impressed that people do. It's also good for me personally, as comfort talking in front of crowds and that kind of stuff. I mean, I never was really bad about it, but it's nice to have that extra being comfortable about it. Freshen up the baits here. Every time I come out here, I'm like, crap, I got all my stuff in my 5-gallon bucket. I keep meaning to bring a bait bucket so I can catch some bait and be able to release it if I don't need it. But at least we had that one blue cat earlier, and he gave us a nice little takedown. So the far right rod will have a headpiece on it. And this one feels awful light. Yeah, there was definitely some fishing on credit on that one. Probably one of Scotty's pet turtles. And this is the second rod's going to have the back half of that bluegill, minus the tail itself. And I put a couple of cuts in it to spread the scent. This one just had a fillet on it, untouched. You getting what?
You're getting blessed over here.
Oh, like water?
Yeah.
Okay. Ashley has the jokes. Well, I'm just trying to keep the fish guts off of you. So I've got one of these rigs is the Santee Cooper style rig. I got some that have like the little spinning rattle, and then I got some that are just regular nothingness. And the Santee Cooper rig is actually there because I'm too lazy to change it. So that middle one is a headpiece as well. Tail off. Awesome.
And my 50 miles for the month.
50 miles monthly?
50 miles for the month of April.
Yeah.
It's the 13th.
I don't even know if I've driven 50 miles in the month of April.
And
Well, I did have to go to Harbor Freight twice, so.
yeah, we did go out yesterday.
My joke, which is really not a joke, is that she runs more a month than I drive.
Oh, I got the picture. Oh no, I got a new picture. That's what I was gonna watch.
Well, of course you beat last April's total distance. This is a whole different year for you. You were
I know, but
going absolute crazy with running. Okay, so we got fresh all of them. The third and the fifth rod have the head pieces, and the others have body pieces. And I have one spare body piece just in case. Let's see. Scotty, you're fishing a spot. Mud is convenient, the wind's so strong, nothing but white caps. Yep. Understand. Oh, yeah, Wildcat, definitely 160 pounder. Easy. Turtle. Thank you so much, Scotty. Hey, Scott B. Welcome in. Hey, Trip. Fishing right now in Blue Ridge, Georgia. I hope you're doing well. I don't know what a Tookens is, but hey, Tookens. Thanks for coming in, guys. Hope you're having fun. We're sitting out here at Herb Parsons Lake outside of Memphis, Tennessee. Doing a little cat fishing with Super Hottie. And seeing what we can get. So far, we've pulled in one blue cat. I got some wax worms if you want to eat those. Salted shrimp. I just came out here and ran for about an hour and a half. Nobody was chasing her. The what?
There's one guy on a bike that I was kind of leapfrogging with for a bit I think he was on yellow.
Yeah.
The trails.
Yeah. It took us about one blue cat and 4 bluegill, but those don't really count since that's what I'm using for bait. The bluegill bite was amazing where I was fishing. I was using a little little trout magnet with a wax worm on it. And I couldn't even see the bites. They were hitting just as soon as the bait hit the water. I missed the first few because, you know, they cleaned off the wax worm before I even knew they were there. but it had to land right under that little footbridge, or they weren't touching it. Like there's a bunch of a little school of them down there just waiting for anything to come down. It's kind of surprising. I expected them all to be on beds. Well, most of them, either to be on the beds or to be trying to steal from the beds. Get rid of those plastic bags. I don't need anymore because that's what the bait fish were in. Try to keep it in one piece, so I've got a good trash bag. If anybody cares, today in the Academy app, they're doing 30% off all full price shoes. But they're, yeah. They don't carry the brand of shoes I like to wear, so it's kind of a moot point to me, but 30% off non-sale prices seems pretty good. But I'm sure that there are some brands that are excluded from that because of minimum advertised pricing and stuff like that. So, Scotty, are you going live with Friday night or Sunday night bites? Scotty is Fun Fishing Adventures, by the way. It's weird how few boats are out here today. There's a lot of people fishing, but there's only like, I don't know, maybe 10 boat trailers out there. I mean, this lake isn't that big, but still. Yeah. The hardcore guys that get out here early when the fish are biting. And there's ones like me are like, let me think about it after lunch. Trip, what are you fishing for over in Blue Ridge, Georgia? I've tried pan fishing live, and it's just not easy to do because, it's hard to interact with chat and cast and retrieve and cast and retrieve. And I guess if I was using, worms on a bobber, but even then, man, those go down pretty quick. Still got 9 folks in here. Appreciate you. Please do hit that thumbs up. It makes YouTube think I'm not an idiot. It's our little secret. They don't need to know I'm an idiot. Still trying to get to that 3,000 watch hours. I've got them on the analytics side, but when they go to the earn tab, it tells me I'm just shy of 2,800 right now. It's a few days behind, but that's not going to get me 200 hours, so I'm glad to be picking up as many as I can during the stream. You about ready to call it a day, or? Hey, Dark Bunny, it is a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A little windy, just a lot windy. Wait, somebody's mobile home just flew by. Wait, I'm kidding. It's been at least 10 miles an hour all day, and you get probably gusting up past 30. Still a gorgeous day. And I sprayed my face with sunscreen, so hopefully I won't look like a crispy nugget when this is over. Well, folks, I think we're going to call it a day here. We've been out here for a few hours. 2 different live streams. The first one had such bad video, I tried to fix it by going to another one. And it just depends on how bad the wind's blowing and what the water's doing. It makes the camera not do what it's supposed to do.
Cell service is fair out here.
Yeah, the cell service is not that great out here because...
But 4G,
But I'm out here with the super amazing Ashley, and you can't ask for anything more than that. Yeah, I talked about fishing yesterday, and was talking about fishing today, and Ashley was like, "It is a gorgeous day out there. We're gonna need to go do something." I was like, "Okay, fine, I'll go fishing." There was a time in my life when you couldn't stop me from fishing. But now I'm like, oh, you know, I gotta like put on clothes and look presentable and put work in, and sometimes I just, sorry you're an idiot. What?
sorry I was mean and made you go fishing.
Yeah, sorry she's sorry she was mean and made me go fishing. I'm always glad when I go fishing. It's just that sometimes the motivation is a little hard to. You start thinking, well, the weekend's almost over. I gotta go work tomorrow. This one feels like there's nothing on it again. If something is cleaned this hook again, no, there it is. Okay, good. If something made me fishing on credit again, I can go out there and swim and catch it. And a lesson I learned a long time ago, and I try to always follow through, is always reel in before you finish the live stream, because sometimes you end up with a fish on there you didn't know you had. Did that last weekend. I had a bullhead on, didn't know it was there until I reeled it in, but I'd already ended the live stream. Of course, I'd ended the live stream, packed everything up, and started pulling my cart off and hearing my drag go off on my, or the clickers go off on my rods because I never had reeled them in. I was in such a hurry to go get some stuff done that I even forgot that little step. So 2 ounce weights have held bottom really nice today. I'm happy about that. The 1 ounces they weren't making it. That was not going to work. This one has a tightness on it, but nothing's pulling. No. We just dug in the bottom good. Come on. If anybody cares, these rod holders came off of Temu. This one, I got at my local bait shop. It's bigger than like you'll find at Walmart, which you need for these catfish rods. And the ones from Temu, they were okay for what they were. But once I compared them to this, the old spiral style, yeah, I'm not buying any more from Temu. One of those rod holders, that's for sure. Well, folks, it has been an amazing, amazing, amazing day. Thank you all for joining. Appreciate the time you spent with me. Please do like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and we will see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching, everybody.